To upload the files in the .NET Core Web API, we need to understand few things. Currently, we have these properties inside our song class. Now we need to add another property which basically is used to handle the images. But the question is, what will be the data type of this property? Well, we'll use the data type of iFormFile, which comes from this namespace, that is microsoft.aspnetcore.acdp. Then we're gonna name this property to image. Okay, now this image property will not be a part of our song class, because as you can see that the data type of this property is iFormFile, which is not a valid data type for database table. The SQL database doesn't support this iFormFile data type. The second most important thing is that we will not store the images inside the database, because storing images inside the database is a bad practice, and this will also increase the database size and reduce the performance of the database. But now the question is, if we will not store the images inside the database, then where we'll store the images and how to retrieve the images? Well, we'll store the images in Azure Blob storage, and earlier we have created our Azure storage and container. So we'll store the images to the Azure storage, and then we'll pick the path or name of the image and store it inside the database. And next time, when we'll call the get method, then we'll get the image path. Alright, so in the song model class, we are not going to use this image property inside our songs table. And that's why we're going to add a not mapped attribute on top of this property, which means this property will not be a part of our songs table. Alright, then we need to resolve the namespace for this not mapped attribute, which is system component model dot data annotations dot schema. Now let's switch to the songs controller. And there, for a moment, let's copy this post method and paste it here. Then comment the previous post method. Now in this post method, we're going to start our work to upload the files. As you can see that we have used the from body attribute along with this song object, which means we'll send the JSON data to this post method via from body. Let's switch to the postman. And earlier when we sent the post request, then we use this from body to send the JSON data. But this time we're going to send the file along with the JSON data. So how to pass both the file and the JSON data in the same request? Don't worry, it's simple. This time inside the postman we have this form data, which basically takes the key and the value in this form. For example, in the song model class, you can see that we have the following properties. Let's start with this song title property. In the key, we'll pass name, and then in the value, just pass some value. Alright, then we use this language property, and in the value, just pass some data. Right after that, we'll use the duration and pass the value. Now what about the image? To use this image, we first need to set the type of this key to file. And then we'll get this option for picking the file. Now I'm gonna pick some image, and here we go. Remember, we have not completed our post method yet, so we're not gonna send the request. Rather, we first switch to the Wheel Studio, and there we'll complete our post method. So inside this post method, we will remove this from body attribute, because this time we are going to send the JSON data via form data. So we'll use the from form attribute. Now inside this post method, just remove everything because first we will learn how to upload the files, and once we will learn the file uploading, then I will show you how to save the file path inside the database. So I will change my return type of this method to void. Basically, there are a few steps that we need to follow to upload the files. Inside the post method, we're going to add the logic to upload the files to the Azure Blob storage account. But first, we need to add a connection string for Azure storage account. So what I'm going to do is, I'll create a variable and name it connection string. Then I'll switch to the Azure portal and let's go to the storage account. If you don't see the storage account, then in the search bar, simply search for storage account and select your storage account. Now on the left hand side, you'll see this access key option. Just click on this and we'll get the connection string here. Let's click this show keys option and copy this connection string. Now we'll switch back to the Wheel Studio and there I'm going to paste the connection string in the double quotes. Alright, here we go. Now we're going to add another variable and name it container name. Inside this variable, we'll pass the name of the container. Why we need to add a container name here? Because in Azure Storage Account, you can add one or more than one container. So we have to tell our RESTful APIs that in which container we want to upload the files. So let's go to the Azure portal. And if we click on our storage account, then click this container, then we'll see the name of our container. Let's use the same name of the container inside our post method. Alright, now we have a connection string and a container. So we're going to instantiate Blob storage client. This Blob storage client comes from this namespace. And this Blob storage client will take the connection string and the container name. And its purpose is to get a reference to the container. Now with this line, we can reference to the container. Then we're going to send the file to the container. So we need a client. Let's add a variable to type blob client. And then we'll use this container to call the get blob client method, which will take the name of the file. To pass the file, we'll use this song object and call the image property. Then we can also pick the file name. Alright, with this file name, we can get the name of the file. Before we send this file, we need to read the file in a memory. So we create a memory stream. And don't forget to add the namespace. Now we're going to upload the content of our file in the targeted stream. So we'll use song.image and then call the copy to method, which will take the memory stream. We can make this call awaitable. Then we'll use the async keyword and make the type of this method to task. Now once we upload the content of the file to the memory stream, then we'll set the position of the stream to 0 because this will read the file to the 0 position. Then we'll upload this stream to Azure by using blob dot, then call the upload async method. And don't forget to use the await keyword here. Alright, then in this upload async method, we'll pass the memory stream. So basically, this line will upload our file stream to the Azure blob. Alright, let's run this project and go to the Postman. There we have already added a file here. But let me remove this file and add another one. Alright, now let's send a request. And we don't get any error, which means our file has been uploaded. Now if we go to the Azure container and refresh it, then we'll see our file here. Alright, now in the next lesson, let's store the JSON data and the image path inside the database. So I'll see you in the next lesson.